I like it when we get about an hour and a half into the show and we haven't mentioned Meghan Markle. I get a little twitchy. Have you got any Meghan Markle stuff going on, friend?
Feel secure and financially confident. The attacks on the royals will eventually stop. But launching an alcohol product on Princess Diana's birthday, it's not tone deaf. It's not tone deaf. It's incredibly insensitive.
They both walked away from the Hollywood spotlight, but only one came back with something worth sipping. Meghan Markle just launched a rosé that promised luxury, elegance, and that Montecito magic. But here's the problem.
She's now in the wine business, right? She's taking on Dan Murphy's, and but a lot more expensive, actually. Each bottle of this is $30 each.
No one knows what's actually in it. Not the grapes, not the winemaker, not even the vineyard. Meanwhile, Cameron Diaz, yes, that Cameron, quietly built a transparent, eco-conscious wine empire that's not only affordable, but flying off the shelves. One bottle is built on hype, the other is built on facts. And once you hear the full story, you'll wonder why Meghan's bottle costs more, but offers less of everything except branding.
In packs of 3, so that's $90 US to get her Napa Valley rosé. Now, apparently it's very nice. I'm sure it is lovely.
Feel financially solvent. The attacks will stop, but I think it's almost a tautology that they won't, because the only thing that really gives those two relevance is their animus and hatred of the royal family and whatever secrets they have to sell out. Hence, you see something like this.
What Cameron just exposed, intentionally or not, could be the final cork in Meghan's wellness brand fairy tale. On paper, Meghan's latest launch looked like a rebrand masterclass. A soft blush label, an exclusive online store, a dreamy Instagram rollout talking about notes of melon and the warmth of the sun. Classic Duchess vibes, poetic, vague, and unmistakably premium. But when wine lovers and wellness fans actually looked closer, something was off.
The fact that that fact alone should have disqualified any alcohol-related product from launching on her birthday. I get frustrated when I even think about it, because I think to somebody like you or I, that's common sense. And Meghan Markle has spent years aligning herself with Diana's legacy.
There were no grapes listed, no vineyard mentioned, not even a whisper of who made the wine. Instead, just a $90 minimum order for 3 mystery bottles wrapped in aesthetic packaging and Markle mystique. It felt less like a product and more like a pitch. A brand banking on the idea of refinement, with none of the substance to back it up. And in a market now dominated by informed label-reading consumers, that silence speaks volumes. Now let's be clear, Meghan isn't the first celebrity to sell a bottle of wine. But what's different here is how it's being done. While Meghan reportedly searched for a CEO before even revealing a product, Cameron Diaz did something radical in celebrity land. She actually learned the business. She flew to France, she met with winemakers, she teamed up with a woman-led production team, and she made sure every bottle of Avaline listed the grapes, region, ingredients, and additives. In short, Diaz gave her fans transparency, not just a curated fantasy.
She's obsessed with the detail. This kind of move doesn't read as accidental, it reads as careless at best and cruel at worst.
That contrast wasn't just noticed, it was devastating. Meghan's brand, once a whisper of grace, now echoes like a hollow bottle. You probably think this is where the story ends. A tale of 2 wine brands, one real and one performative. But you're wrong, because the more people dug into As Ever, the more it started to look like something far more cynical. Not just a rushed product, but a calculated grab for profit dressed in Duchess disguise. And when you see what's really missing from Meghan's bottle, and what insiders are now saying behind closed doors, you'll understand why this is more than a wine flop. It's a branding unravel, and it's only just begun. Here's where it gets really messy. Meghan's brand wasn't just vague, it was eerily vacant. No origin story, no production transparency, no certifications, just polished prose about elegant notes and a dreamy blush hue, as if that alone could justify the $30 a bottle price tag. But in today's market, consumers aren't just looking for pretty labels. They want the receipts, organic certifications, grape varietals, vegan-friendly assurances, the facts. And Meghan's brand offered none of them.
Piece of information, regarding Catherine, Princess of Wales, and how she's doing.
Oh, yes. So, well, this source actually, I had explained to you that this source, the reason why I love this source is because they were the ones that told me last year.
It didn't take long for wine influencers and health-conscious fans to notice the glaring omissions. What vineyard is this from? one top reviewer asked. Where's the ingredient list? Another posted. Crickets. For a brand built on image, Meghan's rosé was suddenly looking like a product with no soul, just strategy. Meanwhile, Cameron Diaz was out here dropping cold, hard numbers. Avaline had sold over 213,000 cases in 2024 alone. That's not hype, that's dominance. And the kicker? Her bottles retail for $24 or less if you subscribe. Meghan's? $90 minimum, for 3 bottles of what critics are now calling mystery juice. That price gap wasn't just bad optics. It turned into a PR nightmare. Because when you ask people to pay luxury prices, you better give them luxury value. But Meghan didn't. And the optics grew worse when consumers started comparing Avaline's minimalist but informative design with Meghan's artsy yet empty packaging. Cameron's back label looks like a nutritional guide. Meghan's? A poetic haiku. No joke. One influencer even made a TikTok comparing Meghan's wine copy to a horoscope reading. But wait, it gets worse, because just as this backlash began simmering online, eagle-eyed industry insiders started pointing out something even more suspicious. No one could identify the wine's source. In the wine world, that's a huge red flag. Even the most affordable brands disclose grape, varietals, and regions. Why? Because wine isn't just a drink. It's geography in a bottle. Knowing whether your rosé came from Provence or Paso Robles changes everything.
A murder conspiracy, affairs that were being generated online. 2 weeks later, it was announced from Catherine that she had cancer. So that's why I have so much confidence in this source. And then another one I wanted to bring up is somebody that reached out to me about us.
But Meghan's label was silent. Completely. And that silence began to feel strategic. Was it hiding low-quality sourcing? Was it a private label slapped on mass-produced stock? Was the As Ever wine just another example of white-labeled merchandise repackaged with Duchess flair? The questions exploded across Twitter threads and Reddit boards. And when fans asked directly on Instagram, the brand deleted comments rather than responded. That's not even the craziest part. Because while Meghan was ghosting transparency questions and allegedly removing critical comments, Cameron Diaz was doing the opposite, uploading behind-the-scenes videos of her visiting vineyards, testing barrels, talking to female winemakers. It felt authentic, real, grounded. Diaz didn't just put her name on the label, she put her reputation behind the process. And the public responded. Wine Spectator praised Avaline for its clean approach to modern wine marketing. Meghan's wine, it wasn't even being reviewed. Most experts didn't have enough info to legally review it, because without knowing what's inside a bottle, how can anyone give an honest critique? The message was becoming painfully clear. Meghan didn't build a wine brand, she launched a marketing illusion, and it was starting to fall apart. Hold up, this is where it gets insane. Because while Meghan's team stayed silent, refusing to clarify anything about what went into her rosé, an internal source from a West Coast distributor came forward. According to them, the wine wasn't made in Montecito or Napa or anywhere glamorous. It was sourced from a bulk supplier, one of those generic facilities that churns out massive quantities of low-grade wine, often used by hotels or budget private labels. If that's true, Meghan's $30 a bottle luxury elixir might be nothing more than rebranded leftovers from a mass production facility. No wonder she didn't list the vineyard. This wasn't vineyard to table. It was spreadsheet to bottle, and fans were furious. One viral TikTok even compared it to celebrity perfumes from the early 2000s. All scent, no soul, sold for markup.
This is somebody that has previously worked for them that said...
For Harry and Meghan, you mean?
For Harry and Meghan, that said the domestic side is a bloodbath as well. We're not considering gardeners. We're not considering housekeepers. We're not considering nannies. We're not considering the staff at home.
And remember that CEO Meghan was supposedly looking for? That's not just unusual, it's telling. Most founders launch small, passionate, product-driven ventures and then bring in business help when scaling becomes necessary. But Meghan, she hadn't even explained her sourcing, and she was already delegating the vision. That's not entrepreneurship. That's brand exploitation. Industry insiders whispered what many were already thinking. This was never about wine. It was about capitalizing on residual fame before the last glimmer of Duchess glow wore off. That kind of move might fly in fashion or lifestyle, but the wine world? It's brutally transparent. You don't fake your way into credibility with sommeliers and conscious consumers. And if your brand can't survive a basic label inspection, it won't survive at all. You think that's bad? Keep listening. Because just when the backlash was reaching a fever pitch, a comparison chart began circulating online. Side-by-side images of Avaline and Meghan's rosé. One listed every ingredient, the other just abstract tasting notes and vague marketing language. And when wine experts examined the language more closely, they spotted a pattern. It was almost textbook generic. Phrases like the brightness of citrus, a celebration of sunshine, and elegant floral undertones, all lifted from the same playbook used by dropship wine brands that outsource from bulk distributors and throw on a designer label. Suddenly, the idea that Meghan's wine was handcrafted became laughable, and worse, deceptive. But here's the twist no one saw coming. While Meghan stayed silent, Avaline's marketing team made a move. Without naming names, they dropped a post on social media that read, "Transparency isn't just a trend, it's a promise." The caption was subtle, but fans knew exactly what it meant. Comments exploded with comparisons, tags, and side-eyes aimed squarely at Meghan's brand. It wasn't just a wine war anymore, it was a credibility war, and one side had stats, substance, and receipts. The other, pretty bottles and a ghosted comment section. The internet had already chosen a side. Meghan's wine was no longer an exclusive launch. It had become a cautionary tale. Here's where the story hits its boiling point.
The numbers we've been reporting for the body count when it comes to Harry and Meghan's former staff in the last few years.
Kinsey, it's kind of like when there's a natural disaster and they can't locate the bodies, but they know there probably are not survivors among them. And they say, well, double the body count. That's kind of what this feels like.
Because just as critics and fans were tearing Meghan's rosé apart online, something strange started happening behind the scenes. Influencer partnerships began quietly vanishing. One beauty blogger with over 3 million followers, who had initially teased a collaboration with Meghan's wine brand, suddenly deleted her posts and unfollowed the account. Another lifestyle influencer, known for her luxury kitchen reviews, reposted a story praising Avaline just days after soft launching as ever. It was a silent but unmistakable retreat. When insiders started reaching out, one response reportedly came back chillingly direct. "We were told not to answer any questions about the wine. Not the flavor, not the source, nothing." In influencer marketing, that's the equivalent of a 4-alarm fire. When the people paid to promote your product start distancing themselves, you're not facing a branding problem. You're facing a credibility collapse. But wait, there's more. Because while Meghan's team remained tight-lipped, industry watchdogs weren't. A wine trade newsletter published an anonymous tip about a celebrity label under fire for refusing to disclose even the alcohol percentage on the bottle, a basic required standard in most countries. Speculation mounted, and the clues pointed straight to, as ever. Then came the final blow. A former wine consultant, who had been approached months earlier about helping with Meghan's brand, posted a cryptic message on LinkedIn. When you're asked to consult on a product that has no origin, no formulation, and no authenticity, you walk. He didn't name names. He didn't have to. At this point, even loyal Meghan supporters began to waver. Reddit threads that once defended her projects with passion now brimmed with suspicion. "Why launch something if you can't even say where it comes from?" one user asked. "She built a brand on authenticity and now she won't list a single ingredient?" another chimed in. And in the court of public opinion, that shift was everything. Because Meghan has spent the last few years carefully repositioning herself as a figure of empowerment, transparency, and thoughtful living. But this wine, it shattered that illusion. It wasn't thoughtful, it wasn't transparent, it wasn't even fully labeled. It was the Montecito version of a vending machine product. Pretty on the outside, mystery on the inside. And here's the irony no one can ignore. Meghan has repeatedly spoken about the dangers of misinformation, the importance of truth in media, the value of living with integrity, but when it came to her own product, a literal bottle with her name and legacy attached, the facts were the one thing she withheld.
Her abusing my word only, or mistreating, or scolding a household employee, whether it's a domestic employee or a member of the As Ever staff.
Right. So the tone is Prince Harry will step in.
And that's the part the public can't seem to swallow. Not the high price, not even the suspicious sourcing, but the contradiction, the sense that the Duchess of Clarity had become the Queen of Obscurity. The moment your brand starts contradicting your personal philosophy, that's when even your fans begin to walk away. So what happens now? Meghan Markle, once the embodiment of rebranding royalty, now finds herself in unfamiliar territory, not as the polished duchess with a message, but as the face of a luxury product that couldn't withstand basic scrutiny. The backlash wasn't just about bad wine, it was about trust, about truth, about whether a woman who once championed transparency was now selling an illusion for $90 a box. And in today's world, where wellness brands live and die by authenticity, that's a fatal misstep. Because when your brand promise is as ever, people expect consistency, they expect values, and most of all, they expect answers. Meghan didn't give them any, and in doing so, she may have cracked the foundation of everything she's built since leaving the palace. Cameron Diaz, on the other hand, didn't just win the wine war, she redefined what celebrity brands should look like. Built on real travel, real partnerships, real information. Avaline didn't rely on mystery or marketing poetry. It relied on clean sourcing, full disclosure, and actual engagement with the audience. Diaz didn't need a Duchess title to sell wine. She earned her reputation with sweat equity and smart strategy. And while Meghan's team now scrambles to repair the image of as ever, Avaline keeps selling out, bottle after bottle. The contrast couldn't be sharper. One woman sold a dream, the other delivered reality.
The fallout from this branding disaster is already in motion. Retailers are reportedly hesitant to stock as ever without more transparency. Influencers have quietly backed away, and public opinion, always fickle, has turned cold. Meghan may still have her fans, but the sheen is wearing off. Because in the end, this wasn't just a wine launch gone wrong, it was a test. A moment when the public asked, Are you who you say you are? And Meghan didn't answer. Not with clarity, not with confidence, not with truth, just silence and a $30 price tag.
And that leaves us with one final question. In a world where everyone is selling something, how long can image alone carry a brand? Meghan Markle once broke the mold by stepping away from royal life to chase authenticity, but with as ever, she may have accidentally revealed just how carefully curated her world really is. Meanwhile, Cameron Diaz proved something far more powerful, that transparency, integrity, and a little elbow grease still matter. The lesson? In the end, your label says more about you than your PR team ever could. And for Meghan, that label is starting to look awfully empty.